Welcome to the Comic Binge. Today is our first inaugural episode of Indie Kicks, which I have no idea if that's going to stick or not, but we're going to try it out, right, Dennis?
It sounds good to me, man.
All right, excellent.
Let's go for it.
Dennis, I'm joined by my new co-host, Dennis, here for this specific show. Chris Clow will still be my regular host, obviously, for the regular shows. But Dennis is an old Twitter friend I have here. And Dennis is here because he creates independent comic books. And I just admire that so much about this guy. He's awesome. He's talented. And why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself, Dennis?
Well, first, thank you for inviting me on. It's a real honor.
You're not on. You're a part of it. You are a part with me, sir.
And I appreciate it.
Right.
I've been listening to the fabulous P Thug for years on podcasts. So to be able to do this show with you is a real honor. So thank you.
Thank you.
About me, I've been into comics, since I was a kid. Second grade, first grade, and they've always been with me in one form or another. And making my own comics kind of came about just as a necessity. It was, I'm not a big name. I'm not a big writer. The chances of me working for a comic book. Well, yeah, I mean, the chances of me working for a major comic company are very small, so I figured, why wait? Just do it.
Amen. Just do it, man.
That's what I did.
And this is what it looks like, everyone. This is The Great Detective, and it's a solid story, man. I really enjoyed it. The art is great. And you lettered it yourself, and that was because there's a lot of, this is not a detriment or anything when I say this, there's a lot of dialogue in it. And I was really impressed, Dennis. And I remember telling you, I think I told you this. Remember I told you this. I was like, man, like there's a lot of dialogue and you portioned it really, really well in the story. And I thought it was really, honestly, that's an art. That's an art right there. It's hard.
The lettering, the lettering was a challenge because obviously I had no idea what I was doing. I watched a lot of YouTube videos to kind of build
God bless YouTube.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, it took maybe like a month to letter because I was just playing with formats and fonts and bubbles and I eventually got to a point where I was comfortable with it, and it worked out, I thought.
Yeah, you did great, man. I thought it was, and honestly, it's like I just think I admire anyone who works on art, whether it's music, comics, film, whatever. If you're doing it independently, like I just think it's awesome. And I just want to encourage everyone to just stop wasting time. Just do art, do whatever you love to do or want to do. Like Dennis made a comic book. Like he didn't know what he was doing, but he was like, screw it. I want to do it. Like exactly. And that's the thing. We're not in this to get rich and famous. You're in it because you love to do the medium or whatever, right? That's the whole point. So
yeah. I think deep down in everybody, there's a creative spark.
Amen.
And
preach.
Yeah, I mean to do whatever you have to do to try to find it.
Yeah.
You may not like what you produce at first, but
yeah,
I just think it's good for you.
Absolutely.
Just to get out of your system. Write a book, draw a picture. Write a comic.
Strum a guitar, write a song. Just exactly. Do it. Like, and remember, the first thing you do is not going to be great. But if you keep working at it, it could be great. It just, but you got to start somewhere, and that's the thing. And that I admire so much about you. And I know you've got other stuff you're working on, and I can't wait to keep promoting it on the show. Because again, it's my new regular co-host for the show. This is Dennis. This is awesome, and I'm so happy he's here. So anyway, part of the fun of the show is not just us talking about Dennis's awesome new comic, but it's going to be talking about other people's new comics and new work. And this is someone that I've been talking to for a while when I was thinking about ideas for the Comic Binge, and got a lot of behind the scenes stuff that I've been working on and that I'm not ready to discuss yet, but I've talked to this person about, and I was introduced to him by Justin Kowalski from the Let's Go Network. And his name is Gabriel Chang, or Gabe Cheng, I should say. I hope I said that right. Correct? Did I say this right, Gabe?
Yeah, Gabe is fine.
Okay, excellent. I met Gabe and was able to talk to him, and Gabe's always so nice to just kind of listen to me and talk to me and just kind of hear me out. And we did not know each other. This guy I think it was after Christmas. I'm like, would you like willing to talk to me for like 45 minutes? And he was like, sure, dude. Like, I mean, like the fact you were willing to do that for me it meant a lot, honestly. And we talked a number of times afterwards. And when I told him, I said, listen, when I eventually get the show off the ground, you're going to be the first guest. You have to be, because you've been so gracious to me. And the reason you're on the show is because Gabe has written a number of comic books. And again, as we've said, I just love, like, I admire anyone who works on art and does it and loves to do it. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about other things. I got a lot of questions. I know Dennis has some questions, but first of all, before I start, blowing up everyone's pages for their comic book, I want to know about you a little bit, because I know you a little bit, but even me, I don't know every detail, or not every detail, but the big details or whatever. So tell us a little bit about yourself there, sir.
I'm kind of a late bloomer to comics. I mean, I go on a lot of podcasts, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I hear people saying, like, kind of Dennis started out like, oh, I've been reading comics since I was a kid. And I did a little bit, but I didn't go to an LCS, and I didn't have, a local place to go. And so I had like a couple comics here and there, but I was never consistently reading comics. I kind of fell into Batman fandom first through the Batman Returns Super Nintendo game.
Oh yeah, dude,
which I never beat.
I remember that
one. and then through the animated series TV show, which is still, one of my favorite animated shows. For sure. And then I didn't really start reading comics until I was in college. And even after that, it wasn't until a couple years after that I started getting deeper into Batman. And then it wasn't until I started this whole journey writing independent comics and self-publishing that I really got deeper into more comics and finding the voices and the artists and the different genres that I really like, and the different styles and themes that I really liked in comics. So I'm a bit of a late bloomer to comics, and but I'm doing my best to catch up. So yeah. I will say though that I haven't been reading as many. I just kind of thinking out loud here. Like, I need to be reading more comics than I am right now, because I haven't been reading as many comics. I've been reading I've read the first 2 books of the Expanse series in like the last month. Like, they're
the
like
books or the comics?
The books.
Okay, book. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if either of you are Expanse fans, but oh my god,
I tried. I couldn't get into it.
How dare you?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Sorry.
It's not for, it's, to each his own, but so we don't have to talk about the Expanse. But yeah, I do feel like I do feel like I need to read more comics. I don't remember. What was your original question?
Well, no. This kind of basically just kind of tell me exactly what you told me about yourself. So but you read comics. I think you do go to a local comic store now. I thought, because I think you talked about going to the comic shop. I think on Twitter or something like that. I thought, or telling me. What do you read monthly right now?
I don't read anything monthly. That's the thing.
Okay. I thought you read monthly comics. Okay.
I go to I have a comic book club that is, keeping me kind of holding me accountable to read comics, because we meet once a month and we pick a trade paperback to talk about. And we just read the DC Looney Tunes crossover.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
With Elmer Fudd. Was that written by Tom King, right?
Yes. And that was the one I really liked. It was the anthology of all of them put together. I think there were 6. And some of them were better than others. The Batman Elmer Fudd one was my favorite. And
I heard that's great. I heard that's a great comic.
It's really worth it, especially if you like Tom King's style, which I do. And his it was a really fun mashup of like Sin City and Batman, and a little bit of hints of like Brubaker and Phillips Criminal, like a little with the art and stuff. And it was just like it was full Tom King treatment, but with Elmer Fudd. So he was being a little bit tongue in cheek about it. He wasn't being goofy, he wasn't being silly about it, but it was a little bit tongue in cheek, where he's a little bit like, yeah, I know what I'm doing, and I'm taking it very seriously. I'm putting my whole heart into this, which I really appreciated. And I need that. Anyway, I've been so preoccupied making comics that and focusing on the last couple of Kickstarters I've done that I haven't been reading comics as much, which, you know, it sounds like that line from Citizen Kane where he's like, oh, I don't make any campaign promises because I'm too busy trying to keep them. Like, no, but really, like, reading comics and, you know, going deep into a character, going deep into a writer, or finding an artist that you really like, it really has helped me improve. And that's been part of the process for me. As much as reading has been a part of the process. So I feel like I need to get back to it, to doing it more than I have been. So.
Right. No, totally. I think anyone can relate to that when, whatever their, you know, life gets in the way, whether it be, you know, when I was doing music a lot, it was hard for me to even read comics because I'd be doing, you know, playing music all the time. And it is whatever hobby or whatever art you're doing, it's hard to kind of keep it up at sometimes, you know, whatever. And for me, it's like, I've just been consuming even more than I usually have, you know, which is a lot. And so I eat, breathe, and read comics right now, like literally.
That's awesome.
Which is cool, but it's also like kind of overwhelming too. Cause I'm like, I'll sit and I have this giant pile, which I almost moved the camera, but I have this, my room's a mess. So I don't want it, but like, like me being like, what do I read? I don't know what to read because I'm so overwhelmed with ideas. Like I could read, oh God. So
I have the same problem with all the streaming services. So you have Unlimited, you have DC Infinite, you have Comixology Unlimited, and there's so much available. I'm like, what do I want to read today? You know, it's almost like
I have the same thing. I have Hoopla, and it's literally everything that you could ever want. Hoopla is it's a service like Comixology where you can read books, and you can download ebooks and comics and audiobooks and all that stuff. And because they contract through the Los Angeles Public Library, you can get a library card and get a free Hoopla account, which allows you to borrow. You don't get to keep things like in Comixology. Right. So you borrow it for 21 days, but Hoopla has licensing contracts with the big three and with Dark Horse and with Image. Oh, so cool. All Image books are on there, I think. I mean, I haven't really tested that theory, but like everything that I've ever looked for Image comics is on there.
That's awesome.
All of DC is on there, I'm pretty sure. Most of Marvel, because Marvel has the unlimited things, they only put up a certain amount. And most of Dark Horse, like everything I've looked for Dark Horse has been up there as well. And then smaller publications also get up there as well. So you're able to read things digitally for free. You're borrowing them. So, you know, you only possess it for 21 days, but if you want to read it again, you just borrow it again. So yeah.
Well, it's cool. Yeah. We used to have Hoopla that our library got rid of it. So that was,
jerks.
That was a major
what?
for me. Yeah.
No way. So this is a library. Not all libraries have Hoopla then.
No. Yeah, you just have to contract because, like, I mean, the library has to contract because the library pays Hoopla.
Okay.
And then the library card that each person gets is free. So it's free for the person, but it's not free for the library.
And this is a question for both of you, actually. And because Dennis, I'm not really sure. I think I know your answer. Or your answer to this, but I'm just for both of you. Are you guys digital or physical or both, or is it whatever is like the easiest for you? Curious. Go ahead. You first, Gabe. You guess first.
I'm digital because it is cheap and easy.
Amen to that. I hear you.
Yeah. And I do kind of have that. I moved around a lot when I was a kid. So I had this kind of nomad mentality of like, if I can't carry it on my back, if I can't bug out with it at a moment's notice, then I shouldn't own it, So, and I moved around a lot in general. And I know from just moving books is not a lot of fun. So you can get, you get a dolly, but still. So yeah, I'm digital. And Hoopla has been a thing that has really been a godsend for me because I've just been able to consume so much. When I've had the time to do it, I've been able to consume so much.
Sure.
And also I don't have the problem of paying for a book and then I don't like it and then I'm stuck holding the bag for it. Yeah. And but I do love reading the paper ones because just during the pandemic, there's been so much screen time. So it's nice to read paper.
Yeah, I want to answer. I'll answer that in a second. Dennis, you next. Are you a digital, physical, both?
I prefer physical, but I do digital because like Gabe said, convenience, cost. I mean, you simply cannot beat the value of a Marvel Unlimited or a DC Infinite. $7 a month, and you got hundreds of thousands of titles at your fingertips. It's just a $7 floppy cannot compete with that as far as value goes. I mean, in my opinion, I mean, others may feel differently, but even though I prefer physical, I mean, for practicality's sake, I do digital almost exclusively these days. I mean, even if I know I have a back issue somewhere here in my house, but I'm like, it's free on Comixology. I'll just read it here. I don't want to go back there and pull it from my box. It's just convenient,
Yeah. So
I will say, I wanted to quickly add that I have been, like, when I support other people on Kickstarter, I do like to get their physical books.
Totally.
Like, because I like to support them in that way. And I like to, and usually also when you get the physical stuff, that means that you're getting the stretch goal rewards as well. So you're getting the stickers or the coasters or the trading cards or whatever. And and most of the people that I've been supporting on Kickstarter recently are also friends of mine. So I like to support their stuff, and I like to have something physical from them too. Sure. So that's cool. And so a lot of the physical stuff that I bought recently has not been DC Marvel Image. It's been stuff that I've gotten from Kickstarter.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of Kickstarter. Go ahead, Dennis. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, just parroting that fact that I do enjoy buying the physical from Kickstarter people. It's that's really nice to have something told.
I am really bad with not I haven't supported as many people on Kickstarter as I need to. It's never been an avenue that I've gone, and I need to get, and I'm trying, and this is kind of the purpose of the show, is I want to get down and do that more and promote more people to support these independent artists out there, right? Like Gabe and like Dennis. And so, and that's the thing about this that I love. And I love the idea that you guys want those physical books, because again, it's a tactile thing. And it's really cool to have something that like not very many people have, like everyone has like or not everyone, but a ton of people have Batman 687, variant A, whatever. I mean, it's like, which again, there's nothing wrong with that, but there's something to like saying like, me and like 300 other people only have like this one issue or whatever it is. Right. It's interesting for me and my journey between print and physical. Like you guys all, like, I love physical, or I love digital because it's so easy. It was just easy for me. I was running out of space at the time. It just was like, I was buying the physical books, but then I was buying the Marvel books and then putting the digital codes in. And then I would never touch my physical book at all, like ever. And so it got to a point where my wife was getting out of a different job. And I was like, man, and I went all physical, or I went all digital, and I loved it. And I thought, I'll never go back. Fast forward 4 years later, I have my daughter, we're in a pandemic, and I'm just like, and things start just happening. And you brought up a great point, Gabe, that like screen time, and I think has made me, and I didn't even think about it just till now, but maybe that's what it is. Like, I've had so much screen time because of the pandemic and just in general, that I'm like, physical comic book is kind of nice. And I remember I bought. What started it kind of was, I was thinking, I love Immortal Hulk, right? I don't know if you guys have read that series at all. Phenomenal. Yeah. Like, Gabe, man, get on Immortal Hulk. Start at issue 1, just go. Like, it's so good. Like, you'll love it. Like, comic person to comic person, you'll love it. Trust me. If you don't, yeah, whatever. But I only read it digitally, and I didn't have it. Like, I'm like, well, because this kind of happened too when I was doing music. My friend had like thousands of songs downloaded, right? It's like early 2000s, and I'd be like, what's weird, man, is like, he's like, I don't waste money on CDs like you. What's weird, man, is like, if someone went into your house, no one would know you're into music, because if it's all on a computer. Yeah, like people go to my house, they go, yeah, you spend a lot of money on CDs, but you obviously love music. there's other ways to show it, but I kind of used that as an example. And he was like, he didn't really say anything. He was like, oh, yeah. And
also like kind of along that token, I mean, it's not all about like showing off, even though I agree, but it's also like, it's, you want to surround yourself with things that you love.
Exactly. That nailed it. Exactly.
Yeah. And that's why I don't keep every book that I read, but the ones that I loved, I keep. And like, I don't collect a lot of stuff, but I have a bunch of pop Funkos of things that I love. And, you want to surround yourself with stuff that you love. So like,
exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, continue. I agree.
No, you nailed it. Like that's exactly it. You want to surround yourself with something that you love. And if you just love MP3s, you're going to have like the top of the line computer equipment. Right. But like, that's it. Like no one's really going to know, like, or you're a computer guy. That's the thing. It's like, you put in your house is what you identify with usually. Right. And so, all that being said, I remember thinking, well, I want to have this as physical. So people could be like, oh yeah, you're in Immortal Hulk. I'm like, yeah, I love Immortal Hulk. It's great. Check it. I love it. It's one of my favorite books. It's like, it's one of my favorite books. Well, you don't own it. It's like, it's kind of one of those things. So I bought that. I bought the first, like, it's like an omnibus, but it's like a big, thick, thing of that, volume 1 of that. And then Tom King's Vision. Because that's one of my favorite comics ever.
Oh, it's so good.
So good.
I just reread it during WandaVision. So.
So good. I bought that because my wife even likes that a lot. And I was just like, buying trades is kind of cool. And then I haven't stopped. And my wife hates my guts. Like seriously, like screw it, I'm just gonna do it. Like this is like, so this is right here. Sorry guys. This is all impromptu. Ignore the clothes. You see this here? Like this is like
nice.
That's a lot.
There's a one behind it too. That's the ones that are right by, in this room over here that I could open the door, but you couldn't really see in there very well. But anyway, but yeah, like I just been buying comics like constantly, and like I own a lot of these digitally, but I'm like, screw it, I'm buying them. I'm buying them. I'm buying these books. And one thing that just last couple of weeks, man, like even yesterday, I'm reading The Captain, which is by the way, this is my
still gotta read that one.
Oh, God.
What is it? Who's the creative team?
This is Grunwald and Tom Palmer. I think it's Tom Palmer. Or no, I'm sorry, Tom Morgan. Tom Morgan.
Okay.
It's the creative team isn't necessarily, well, Grunwald. I love Grunwald, but a lot of people don't like him because he's really cheesy. Because of the 80s. But this thing is what essentially the basis of Falcon and Winter Soldier is in this book. Like this is it. It's pretty much like U.S. Agent John Walker, all that stuff's all here. It's so good. And I just rereading it, even though it's a little dated, it's whatever. Like Grunwald he's so good. Anyway, I was reading this last night and I'm like, man, it's so much easier to read this paper than a screen. And I love reading screens. I love digital comics. I love it. And I was thinking to myself, I love paper. This is why paper is so much better. It's easier for me to like just kind of zone in on. And that's the thing. I'm kind of both. You kind of like you guys, whatever's cheapest, convenient, eventually that will probably catch up to me. I probably have to stop buying comics, paper comics, because we'll be broke. And my wife will say, you can't eat comic books, So, I mean, she had honestly quoted me before.
You put enough A1 sauce on it, maybe, but
yeah, maybe, maybe. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I'm with you guys. I'm mostly digital, but I've been blowing a lot of money and I haven't stopped, and I probably won't stop. But it's awesome. I love having a collection again, and it's I only buy Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man monthly with the High Republic of Star Wars comics, and that's it. I'm just keeping it very simple. Everything else, if like I read it digitally, if I like it digitally, I'll buy the trade, and I'll just do it that way. So that's the basis there. So anyway, so kind of now you're a comic book fan and you love comics. Now I read your series for Molly, and I thought it was really fascinating, actually. And I just want to make sure I don't tread too much in your personal life, because you definitely make it very known in the book.
Yeah.
And it's impactful. I was telling Dennis here just a minute ago, I'm like, there's a part in issue 2 that like kicked me in the gut. That I was like, oh, damn. I'm like, damn. And and before I go too further, I want people to know, like, so this is what the first issue is. This is for Molly. And this, I love this cover. I'm a big dog person. So immediately I was like, okay, I'm going to like this comic just because it's dogs in it. And I'm not kidding either. I'm a huge dog person. And, that being said, the first issue kind of, I read the forward, and I know Dennis, you had read the first issue as well, and you kind of talked about it too. I'll let you kind of chime in here in a second. It was, I don't know if I don't even know if I want to reveal it to the audience. I want them to almost read the comic book, because it almost feels like a very personal story. And it was like, damn, dude, like, did you put your heart out there? And I gotta admire that as a creative person, out there, and reading your heart on your sleeve basically through the story was really nutty, in a sense. Like, I was like, not like in a bad way, but like, oh man, like, you're putting it out there. And I admire that. And that takes guts. So bravo to you for putting yourself out there. Dennis, did you want to talk a little about yourself? You said you had mentioned something about that as well.
Yeah. I really dug it. I can say, I didn't know the story. I mean, obviously I didn't know the story going in, so I had no preconceived notions. It completely went a way I was not expecting, which is really cool. It starts out it starts out in one, kind of mode or genre, and then it just kind of takes a left turn, and it was really cool just to kind of be surprised like that. So I really dug that about it. What I also really enjoyed was, Paul kind of alluded to this, the heartfelt forward. Part of it that really spoke to me was putting all of your putting all your time and effort and creativity into making something, and then to not have it particularly be appreciated, I guess is a good way to say it. Which was the impetus for you to make it a comic book, which I thought was really cool. But that spoke to me because I too have written screenplays, I've written novellas, most of which kind of don't really have any fanfare, and it's I'm kicking out in the back of my head, hey, maybe I just make them a comic book, and so that just spoke to me. I thought that was really cool that you did that.
Well, thanks. I really appreciate it from both of you guys. I thank you for reading it, and I'm glad that it resonated with both of you. It is definitely a very personal story. It's something that I wrote in the aftermath of my divorce about kind of working my feelings through it. The original draft of the screenplay, so it started out as a screenplay, sat on a shelf. And then and this is the story in a nutshell, sat on a shelf. Then I finally decided to do something with it. So I decided to turn it into a comic book, and a lot changed in between the initial first draft of that screenplay and the comic book. So there's a lot that was kind of left out that was kind of even more, I don't know. It was a cathartic exercise to write it. So so there are a lot of things that were a little bit more raw, but at the same time, really didn't have anything to do with the story. So they ended up on the cutting room floor, as it were. But either way, what remains in there is a very personal story. It is about dealing with guilt and dealing with abandonment and the idea of loyalty and how to earn loyalty, and what does a dog teach you about loyalty? And a lot of it is also, in my previous career, I was a high school teacher, and I worked with a lot of students who were from really tough backgrounds, who were in the foster system. And it was all about earning their trust and breaking through that rough exterior of whatever it had, and to get to have a relationship with them that was meaningful, not just in a way where they were learning from me as a teacher, but I was learning to be a better teacher, which I then stopped doing a couple of years ago. But that's not the point. But so it's it's a very deeply personal story. And I appreciate you guys saying that, because honestly, I look back on it and I think about, like, oh man, like there's so many things I wish I could change about it because
no, dude, no. And I totally get it. Like any artist,
I mean, you were kind of talking about this at the beginning of the show, where it's like, you know, if you do something, and it's my first self-published comic, it's my first one, put it out there, and you know, if you're not doing, if you're not looking back at the stuff that you've written and like seeing ways that you can improve, or being like, oh man, like, you know, like then that means that you're not improving. Like it's, you know, a different way of saying is like you want the most recent thing that you've written to be the best thing that you've written, and the next thing that you write to be even better than that. So I have since put a couple of years and a couple of miles between me and the initial writing of that screenplay and then the adaptation into the comic, and I felt like the things that I've written since then are improvements, but you know, of course none of that would have happened without the foundation of that story.
It's so interesting. Oh, go ahead, This. I'm sorry.
No, just well put.
Well, man, like I gotta tell you, there was, when you're doing art, and I go back to music because that's where my background mainly was before jumping into YouTube and everything, music. And just like you said, like you always want you're always most excited about the newest thing you're working on because you think it is better, because you think you went from point A to point B, and you're like, you look back at that road and you're like, oh man, like I would never like try that. I would never, try this different amp, or different tone, or turn the bass down, whatever, right? Like that's, as a band, as a musician, like you're always thinking that. But what's hilarious is, and this happens to any medium, is that people attach themselves to whatever, like whatever that you put out there. Sometimes the artists, the most popular stuff is their early stuff that they all can't stand.
Oh yeah, that's especially true with musicians, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is. But it's crazy because you say that, and I remember I read the first issue a while ago, and I remember telling you, like, I enjoyed it. Like I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then I went and finally read the final 2 issues before you came on. And I told you that second issue hit me in the gut. And I honestly, if I were you, like looking from a story structure wise, I don't know if I'd change a thing. Like I legitimately don't think I would do it. I think it sounds great. And there's a beauty to, I think, discovering the medium and the art of the medium, especially when you're starting out. And sometimes, especially I keep going back to music because it's my only background at this point. But there's sometimes the mistakes are what make the book or the art. Like it's the mistakes, and it's crazy to think about, but really it's what it is. Like you'd be, oh yeah, I would never have put this one panel there because looking back, and then someone will say that's my favorite part of the book. And you're like, yeah. What? It's like, I don't think you just don't know. But yeah, man, like I just, you gotta appreciate where you came from. And that's, obviously you do. And you should be proud because it's a freaking solid story. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I mean, I also feel like I need to mention that, like, not only I feel like I've been improving, but I feel like in the last 3.5 years of working with Ben Sawyer, my artist, I feel like he's really improving a lot as well. And I can see it not only in For Molly, but in his other book that he did, which is called Butcher Queen.
I'll check it out.
I'm just so thankful for the amount of work that he's putting into it as well. And we started working on the pages for the 4th and final chapter for Molly. And I mean, even with the final pages of chapter 3 of For Molly, I just kept emailing him like, this is my favorite version of this character that you've done. This is my favorite version of this dog that you've done. This is my favorite background that you've done. Like, and it's just like every page he's sending me, I'm just so excited about getting, because it is that idea of improvement. And yeah, I am appreciative of everything that this book has taught me about writing comics, because it was, as you said, it was a discovery process. It was like, okay, like I remember being so confident about my first issue, and like, this is how it's going to be. This is how it's got to work. Like, this is it. And then I look back on it now, I'm like, I needed, like, things start happening on page 12. I needed things to start happening on page 4. Like,
yeah, exactly.
like that thing stands out to me the most. And it's like, but
it happens,
yeah,
right?
But I mean, I'm taking that lesson and I'm applying it to other things that I'm writing. And and it wouldn't have been there if I hadn't done it in the first place.
Yeah. Dennis, you want to ask anything?
No, I'm right there with you. The first issue of Great Detective is like there's so much exposition, and it's like, God, why did I do that? Well, I need like I would like to go back and make some kind of like big hook, at the very beginning. Like you said, the action shouldn't start on page 10; it should start on page 4. It's hindsight, and I'm hoping to correct that, with further issues in this series. But yeah, it's definitely a learning process, and yeah, well, you get better as you go.
Yeah,
I'm interested, Paul, because I mean we can talk about the issues of For Molly. Like what was the part in chapter 2 that was impacted you so much?
Well, let me put up chapter 2, because it's probably my favorite issue. It was chapter 2. First of all, for whatever reason, I like this cover a lot. I don't know why, but I just do. Molly is by far my favorite character in the story. I love Molly. I love when she's like, I laughed out loud. I think I told you I laughed out loud when I read that. I was like, that's hilarious. But Molly reminds me a lot of my dog Bean. She's a little feisty, very but the difference is that Bean is like follows me everywhere I go. Like, she loves me to death. And Molly's a little more independent than Bean is.
Right.
Bean? You're a little lovey-dovey than she is. But like I think she had a rough, before we adopted her, a little bit of rough life like Molly. But there was a line when forgive me, I'm bad with names, but is it Greg? Is
Greg? Yeah, it's the main character, the human main character.
I'm embarrassed myself in front of Gabe. But when Greg and him and Molly are talking, and he talks about he felt like he abandoned his wife, and I was like, damn. And then when Molly's like, well, you abandoned your wife, I was like, damn.
Yeah.
I was like, and I literally could, and again, forgive me, I'm not trying. I could almost feel that's how you felt. Like, literally, and you were saying it out loud to almost, it's a meta for you. Like, this is how I felt or feel or whatever. Right. And I could feel that coming right into me. Like, it was like you channel it through that comic book, went right into me. And I was like, ugh, like ever seen Ghost, like with Patrick Swayze? It's like that. It's like all those emotions you felt at one time, like, came into me. I was like, oh, God, that's what it felt like. It was, and I'm not bull crapping you, man. Like, it hit me. And I've never been divorced, but I think we all can identify with having regret and having whether it be a friend or a loved one or whatever. And it hit me. Like, I was like, damn, like I felt exactly whatever you were going for. I'm pretty sure I felt. And
yeah, that was pretty much what I was going for. So I really appreciate that. I'm proud of that moment. It's the moment when this is another thing that I wasn't, well, I don't want to keep talking about things that I don't like about my own work, but issue 1 is kind of an introduction to Greg. Issue 2 is kind of the introduction to Molly, and you get that kind of backstory and establishing that relationship early on of she is fiercely independent, and she doesn't feel like she needs to be she doesn't feel like she needs anybody else. And then she's in the woods helping out this outsider, Greg. And right from the get-go, she's very aggressive about, like, so what's your deal? And to have that kind of instant friction between the two of them, and to have it be kind of, and then have it revealed that it's rooted in the fact that Molly herself was abandoned, and then had this experience, like, having to escape and all of these things. Like, that was, I'm glad that moment like resonated with you, because it is an important moment that I wanted to get across in that issue.
Yeah, like it did. And it made me really excited to talk to you about it, because you did a great job conveying everything, and not just, because here's the thing with whether you're doing a movie or a book or whatever, right? Like, the thing is, when those moments happen where you're putting a piece of yourself into the art, and it's not just like shoehorned in, or the message isn't shoehorned in. Like, it's hard when those important moments are so hard to get right, in my opinion anyway. And I felt like you did a really great job. And then, again, no BS there. Like you did a great job of making it such a natural part of the story that because of the forward, I obviously it hit even harder. But even if I hadn't read that, I would have still felt that by far. No crap. Like I've been like, dang, dude, like that's rough. And I would immediately thought like, okay, the guy who wrote this, like he's dealing with some stuff, or whatever. And go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you kind of said it before as well. Like you have to write what you know about, and you have to, everybody's got a voice and's got something to say. And it's hard to get it out. Sometimes it's hard to turn it into a story. I mean, you walk around feelings of guilt or excitement or happiness. And, how do you get that into a story as opposed to just, it's not a greeting card, but like, and I really appreciate that. And, but that's really what it is. And I really do challenge myself to, I don't want to just write a story that anybody else can write.
Exactly.
Because what is unique about that? Why should somebody read that? Why should somebody contribute to a Kickstarter about, a story that could have been written by anybody? And okay, so I'm going to use a kind of a different example here. And it's, my sister got married 2018, so 3 years ago, and my brother and I gave a speech at her wedding, and really I saw that as an opportunity to give her something. Like with my writing, that sounds so pretentious. I hate when I say
no. Totally, go with it, man.
But the speech was, what can only my brother and I say to my sister? Because if you go up there and you're like, Izzy is this and Izzy is that, and not to make fun of anybody that did this, but love is patient, love is kind, or all that whatever that Bible verse is, that's something that somebody else can say. What is it that only I can say in this moment about my sister, for my sister, on this extremely important day of her life? And that's kind of the approach that you have to take, or I try to take with my writing, where it's like, okay, what do I have to say in this moment that only I can say, that's going to be at the very least a kind of journal for me to look back years from now and say, oh, that's what I was feeling at that time, and to be able to reconnect with those feelings and in real time, in the present, send that out into the world and have people be able to, like you were describing, like connect with the feelings that I'm having. So, For Molly is very important for that. But at the same time, I'm working on a anthology of short stories that are all kind of related to the pandemic, where it's like feelings that I'm having during the pandemic. They're not about the pandemic, but it's like the stories are about feeling stuck. They're about feeling trapped. They're about feeling
like allegories, right?
Yeah, a little bit, but yes, but like the feeling helpless and things like that, and like all things that we all felt during the pandemic that are all kind of coming out in these stories that I'm trying to write. And so that's another one of the challenges is trying to write something that only I can write, that is in my unique voice, that is from my unique perspective.
Right on. I have one more question, but Dennis, do you have anything you want to ask Mr. Gabe here?
No, I mean, I need to go read issue 2 and 3.
You do, man. You do.
The issue 1, the issue 1 was it was really good. And so I need to continue the story. So is 4 going to be the end of the series, or do you have any more on that beyond that?
Yeah, 4 is the end of the series. I have other plans for things that I want to write. I'm working on a short story anthology, so I have a couple of things kind of immediately in the hopper coming out as far as things I'm going to write. But I'm trying to do the Kickstarter for chapter 4 sometime in the summer. But that will be the end of the For Molly story. And the Kickstarter that I just did for a short story called Into the Wilderness was a spinoff of 4 Molly.
The guy who shows up in the second issue.
Yes, Schneider.
Schneider,
and so that, I mean, I never thought that I would do that. So to kind of get back to the questions you're asking, it's like, we'll never say never about, you know, this world that I've created and these characters that I have. But for the moment, I don't have anything planned to continue on with that story. But Dennis, your book, is that available on Comixology and stuff? Like, could I read that there?
It is, yes. You know, I'm actually writing a special edition version at the moment. Well, not writing. It's already done. But I haven't published it yet. It adds new material, new short stories, and behind the scenes content. So that'll be coming pretty soon as kind of a primer for issue 2. But The Great Detective #1 is available on Comixology.
Yeah. And did you do a Kickstarter for #1 as well?
I didn't. Well, I tried. I think I tried. But at the time, my social media presence was very, very small. And so I didn't have any reach at all. And so I ended up financing it myself.
Tell me about it. I have no reach either. No, I'm serious. Like, it sucks. I wish I was way cooler. I'm not.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and even now I have a big following. So if I do any future Kickstarters, and who knows if they'll be successful. But you know, if they're not, you know, I'll find a way around it. I'll save and, you know, see what I can do to pay my artist.
And that's important too. I mean, like, we got to pay your artists, you know, and that's what's so hard about being a comic book writer. I think, especially I can sympathize, because I can't draw. I can't be like, I'm gonna write a comic book and draw it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't do that. You know, I mean, that's impossible.
That's what I think. I mean, I'm trying to write a story right now, and it's so hard. But every time, you know, just trying to fit everything I want to fit in there. But it's like, every time I finish a story, I'm like, well, the easy part's done, you know? Like,
right.
Yeah,
so, because then it gets into, obviously my artists are amazing, and they're doing great work, and they're working so hard on it. And then also there's the marketing part, and the making the graphics for the Kickstarter page, and making the video for the Kickstarter page. It's like, wow, that's, you know, the writing is no sweat. All this other stuff, man.
Oh, it's easy. Writing's easy, man. Built that out in a day, you know, whatever.
Exactly.
So I have one last question before we pimp out your stuff. So I'm curious, because I know you love comic books. That's obviously not disputed here. But you don't read as much as you like, and it sounds like you kind of fell into comics, you know, as you said later on. So, and I remember, I think you wrote it in your foreword, but what exactly prompted you to, or inspire you to do the comic book instead of a screenplay? You said you wrote a screenplay. So what was it, just the fact that you wanted to get that story out there, or was it that, was there a specific comic book that like inspired you to be like, you know what, I could do this? Like, what inspired you to make it into a comic book?
I think it's just, I was really in love with the story, and I really felt strongly about the characters. I really felt like I wanted to see that come to life in more of a way than just words on a page, and, you know, and but bits in my hard drive. I did not, and I still do not have any connections in Hollywood as far as going out and pitching, you know, and trying to get a movie made. So, I don't know. It drew the idea of sequential art and the comic book storytelling medium. It seems like, you know, to somebody who is, you know, or the more naive version of myself back then was like, oh, it's just, you know, it's 1-to-1. You get, you know, this shot, this panel, this, and it's like, no, not at all.
Not quite. It's similar. It's similar, but not quite. Yes.
Not quite. Yeah. So I naively thought that, and, but I'm glad that I did, because then I jumped kind of headfirst into doing the comic, and I've like we've been talking about, I've learned so much about writing comics along the way. So now I'm not writing I'm writing a script, and I'm looking at different layouts of you know, kind of different types of layouts of different types of pages I can do, and thinking in terms of creating something for a comic book, and not just writing a script and then shoving it off to an artist and be like, here, make this into a comic book. Right. But yeah, and that's again another thing that we were talking about, that the benefits of reading comic books and not just the superhero stuff, which is great, obviously, but it does involve a lot of 4 pages of exposition and then 3 pages of people punching each other, a couple more pages of exposition, more punching. Like not every story is about just finding ways to get the characters to punch each other. Which I love. I'm not criticizing. I love that stuff.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
But going out and reading as many comics as I can, and different sci-fi stuff and different modern fantasy stuff, which is the types of genres that I love. It's really like it's really where it comes from, and it's just I've heard comics described as a movie with an unlimited budget, where it's like you can do whatever you want in the pages of the comic because it's because of the way that the medium is laid out, where like anything you want to do in the story, whether it's a talking dog, whether it's an army of vampires destroying Ventura Boulevard, which is what happens in Into the Wilderness, and in Love at First Bite, or it's like or you can, and one of the other things that I haven't really talked about is there it is and leads me into the other thing is like it is the unlimited casting too, where it's like all right, if you want to see like what would it look like if the character Schneider in Into the Wilderness is based on Ed Reed, who is a football player, and it's like, all right, well, that's who I had in my head when I was writing it. So here
Ed
he is.
Reed? No way. See, you're a football guy, so we got to talk more about football, Gabe, because I'm a huge NFL guy. All right, we'll talk later about football.
That's where it comes from. And when I was working with Elisa and with Colleen, who did the variant cover, there were a couple of emails I had to send where I'm like, no, he needs to be more muscular. He needs to be bigger. And the beard is the key. Absolutely. So it's like, and the unlimited casting is another thing that's so much fun about comics. It's like Alina is based on I always pronounce her name wrong, but I think her name's Karen Fukuhara. She's the and I never remember her character's name, but she's the mute girl in The Boys, the one that they saved, the one with all the okay.
That's a long story. I have a whole thing about that.
No worries, but yeah, so just having that unlimited casting ability, that unlimited budget ability, you don't have sound, you don't have music. You don't have, and you create motion in different ways, but you don't necessarily have motion like in the way that you have a motion picture. But there's something magical about doing something in those panels. So
one thing I recommend for anyone who wants to write comic books, I read something by Alan Moore. And I love Alan Moore, but I don't like him as a person, to be quite honest. I think
he's nuts.
He's nuts, and it's a whole
curmudgeon.
That's a whole whole show dedicated to Alan Moore. Like that's a show. I mean, a whole channel just dedicated to him. But he did write something back in the early 2000s about writing comic books, and he talked about, what is the difference between like movies and comics. And he talked about how time doesn't exist in comics, meaning like when you're in a movie, you're kind of going with time. You have it's 2 minutes or it's 2 minutes for within you know what I'm saying? Like it's, you see it and it goes. You can't rewind it usually, or you can, but you experience it and then it's gone. With comic books, it's all there. Yeah. So it's like you have to keep that in mind when you create your page, whether you write your page or you draw your page, to keep that in mind, to use the medium to your advantage. And that's what I love about comic books, is that we don't deal with time. We deal with, we are in control of the time, meaning, or you are yourself in control of the time as a reader, but we can like make it as interesting and as possible through collaboration or whatever to make that page, to communicate whatever we need to do. And it could be sometimes putting things in the foreground that's, again, using those artsy ways, but that really is what it is. It comes down to what can you do? Can this one big panel to one small panel mean, what does that mean, figuratively or whatever? It gives the reader a reason to stick on the page longer than just going through words.
Yeah.
Which, you can do that, but you're doing a disservice to the people creating the art. So
I mean, controlling the way that the reader,
there is a beauty to.
Uh-oh, might be frozen. Oh, okay, you're back.
Maybe.
Oh, you're back. Okay. but yeah, there's a way that, you know, that the great comic book writers control the reader's view flow through the page, and it's and it's very true. And you know, I do, as I'm writing, I'm like, wow, this would be great if I could it's economical too, because it's like this would be great if I could put 3 panels on a page, because then, you know, and have it be a 60-page comic, but you know, I have a budget. But there is something really beautiful about that. And I remember I watched my sister bought for me Neil Gaiman's masterclass, and in his section about comics, he talked about how much he loves the silent panel, the panel where it's just where there's no dialogue, there's no narration. And kind of tying it back to For Molly, the page that you were talking about that was so impactful for you, it ends with Molly just staring at Greg silently, and you know, it's a way to control the time, where it's like you don't know how long she's staring at her, but you get this the depth of this moment where she's kind of looking him up and down and seeing him for, you know, we're learning more about him and seeing him in a certain way, and it's just like there's so much said in a silent panel, and there's a couple others. I try to include silent panels because I honestly love them too. And there's a couple moments in the one moment in particular in chapter 3 where they're also looking at each other and confronting each other. And it's true. You can't do something like that in a movie. You can have you can have people looking at each other for a long period of time, but it's not infinite. Like the silent panel in comics, which is what makes it so great.
And I think the silent panel is it's a great tool to use because it conveys so much. You know, when you have no sound effects and there's not an action, there's either like staring at something, it's usually the result of something that's already happened, you know, and it's impactful. It gives us the reader the idea that this person or thing or whatever is just they're at their low, maybe their lowest point. Yeah. And you know, not always obviously, but like the silent panel is, you know, it can be very powerful. And I love talking the medium of comic books. I love the tricks of the trade and just things like that. The silent panel, you know, or the static panel where it's like similar panels back. Yeah. The same one.
I love that.
Yeah. But
that's a Tom King thing. I love that he does that.
Yeah. I love it too. A lot of people like criticize it. They say it's like cheap, you know, because like, it's like, I paid $5 for this comic book and I got a bunch of static panels. And I'm like, well, I guess I could kind of sympathize with that a little bit. But yeah, that's a whole different conversation. But anyway, Dennis, you want to add anything before we close out?
No, just you guys should be like teaching a course on the depth of
not me, this guy.
That goes to these things. No, it's really inspiring. It's I should probably be putting more eloquent thought into my creative process that you gave. But it sounds like you got a good process down. So that's really inspiring. I need to
the purpose more. And then as we talked about this before we even recorded, you know, the purpose of this show is to inspire people one way or another, whether it to be, you know, write a comic book, write a book, write a song, whatever. I want people to do art, and this is I just love comic books so much, and I want to get your art, Gabe, out there. I want to get your art out there, Dennis. So it's like that's my goal from this show specifically. And again, I apologize, went way longer than I even anticipated. So I apologize to both of you guys. So wrapping up, Gabe, I'm just, where can people find you, support your comic books? I know you just got it done with the Kickstarter, but yeah, where can people go? Tell us.
Yeah, I am on social media at Gabe Cheng Comics, GABECHENG COMICS. That's what I am on Twitter and Instagram. On Facebook, it's the For Molly comic page, For Molly. It's facebook.com/formolly. And yeah, I just finished a Kickstarter, but that comic and all my other comics are available on Comixology and Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, or whatever that's called. So people can read those there. I'm going to be doing the Kickstarter for chapter 4 of For Molly, which is, as we talked about, the final chapter where all the other chapters will be available to purchase. That Kickstarter will be in sometime, hopefully in the summer. I'm aiming for July. But there's a lot of work to be done before that. And then Yeah, I also have a podcast, which is called Another Lousy Millennium. It is a Futurama fan podcast. We go episode by episode talking about Futurama, my brother and me. And we are coming up on the end. We have just published the third to last episode, Death on the Planet or Murder on the Planet Express, and then we've got some. We're not quite ending the show after the final episode, which is called Meanwhile. We've got some cool stuff coming up about just talking Futurama and talking about our favorite characters and our favorite bad guys and our favorite quotes and things like that. So
awesome.
So Another Lousy Millennium. That's almpod.com, at almpod on Twitter and Facebook.
Awesome. And obviously I'm going to have these in the description. I'm really bad with descriptions right now. I need to get better at it because I'm like, this is about comic books, and then leave it there. I don't put
that's what I do. I'm terrible at copywriting. I'm like, here's the thing. Look at it.
Just watch it. Just watch the freaking video, But I will be putting your links for your stuff in there. And obviously in Dennis too, because whatever. But we'll be putting that stuff in there for you. So don't worry. But just we'll talk about that later. Dennis, before we get out, do you pimp your stuff out, my friend?
You can find me at October Comics on Twitter, and that's honestly pretty much the only social media I have. I'm probably going to have to ramp that up as I start releasing future issues, for marketing, just to build my presence out there. I've started a TikTok, so may kind of try to build that up.
You young whippersnapper, you and your TikToks.
Whatever. I've made like 4 videos, and like I don't know. It's
I don't know.
Out of necessity. That's really it. I like one social media platform at a time, but I'll try to expand as I release more comics. But right now, Twitter, October Comics. Like I said before, I am putting together the special edition of Great Detective #1. That'll be released very soon. And that'll be a primer for the release of issue #2, which is currently being penciled.
It's awesome. It's awesome. I can't wait, dude. And I can't wait to keep promoting your stuff, man. And obviously you too, Gabe. So again, Gabe, thank you so much for coming on. I'll have you on again. This will be your first time.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
No, this has been great. And because I'm obviously when Formally issue 4, we are 100% going to get you on because
awesome.
I'm invested because I want to see it end too. Because it ends on a cliffhanger. I was like, oh wait. I thought it was the last issue. I thought third issue was the end, and then I went, wait a minute, it's not the end. I was like, crap.
Nope.
So
still got lots of story to tell.
Well, you know what? And it makes me excited because I bought the issues obviously, but now I get to actually get with going to help you finish it. And there's something special to that with that, I think, for me. So anyway, you can find me on Twitter at Herman22 with 2 N's, aka P Thug. Please follow, like, subscribe, all that jazz. And thanks for watching the video. And this has been I've had a blast. This has been amazing. And I hope every episode we do is as fun as this, because it's been great. So signing off, as always, read more comic books.
Take care.
Yeah.